What is your spiritual or magical lineage? Why is it important to know your spiritual lineage? Can you practice without knowing your lineage? You can, but your practice will be much richer for knowing it. Now, first of all, we need to know what I mean by a spiritual lineage. We know what genealogy is in researching our family tree, our ancestry. Well, a spiritual lineage is the same thing, only it's not genealogical. It's not biological. It could be if you follow the spiritual practices of your ancestors that brought you forth into this world, but sometimes we don't. Maybe we weren't brought up in a spiritual aspect, or maybe we walked away from it, or whatever. So, your spiritual lineage is a non genealogical ancestry, so to speak, of what your spiritual beliefs are. It's the ones who came before you in terms of your spirituality. Now, I am a Reiki practitioner, a Reiki master, and one of the things we learn in Reiki training is what our Reiki lineage is, from who our teacher is back to the founder of Reiki. So I do know what my lineage is from the time Reiki came into being to me. I can go back and count back the generations of Reiki that it took to get from the founding to me. I know that. I was taught that. And when I teach Reiki to others, I pass that lineage on to them so that they know. Why is that important? And what does that matter if you're not a Reiki practitioner? If you're not Reiki attuned? Well, I was just using Reiki as an example. It's effective or not effective because your magic isn't dependent on knowing your lineage. It's important to know your lineage, but you can practice magic. You can practice spirituality without knowing your lineage. But I was using Reiki as an example because that's an aspect where we are taught our lineage. Now, why would it be important to know? So, in terms of genealogy, we look at our ancestry to know where we came from, to know the people that made us who we are. It's the same with a spiritual lineage. You want to know and understand that those who came before you in terms of your spirituality or magic, so that you know who and what made it possible for you to believe and practice the way that you do today. So, by this, I'm not saying you have to know your lineage by any stretch of the imagination. You can practice magical or spiritual heritage without knowing, but it enriches your practice to know who made you who you are. Now, in terms of religion, if your spirituality comes from a religion, you have the ancestry or the lineage of your religion. Christians have a lineage of Jesus, a lineage of Mary, a lineage of whatever saint that they follow or call upon. In Judaism, we have a lineage of Abraham, we have a lineage of Miriam, we have a lineage of our patriarchs and matriarchs that brought Judaism forth as a religion. And since Judaism is not my only practice, because I infuse magic with everything from my ancestral biological lineage as well, then I have more than just the Jewish lineage. So, what I'm talking about here is the people that came before you and made your practice possible. And it doesn't matter what you practice, it doesn't matter if you are religious or not. It doesn't matter what your spiritual practice is. I guarantee you somebody came before you. You're not the first one to do this unless you just randomly make something up. And then I'm sure somebody had some aspect of it before because they made you. You are here because somebody created you, and every idea that you have comes from somewhere. So, no matter what your practice is, there's probably been at least one person before you who had that idea. That would be your spiritual lineage, your spiritual ancestry. And knowing who that person is or who those people are is key because it helps you to know why you believe the way you do. It helps you to understand the things that are important to you. It opens up a whole new world to your practice when you know that you're not alone, because then you have a way to research other people now and in the past who believe the same way that you do. which can help you to inform your beliefs further and to help you develop your practice further. So, just as our physical ancestral genealogy is a tree of people who made us who we are today, and it is helpful to know who those people were, our spiritual lineage is a tree of people spiritually who made us who we are today spiritually. They may be biological ancestors, they may not be, but it is also important to know who they are because it helps us to understand why we are the way that we are. It helps us to understand we are who we are because of them. So if you don't know who your spiritual ancestors are, what your spiritual lineage is, do some research. And you can do this through a number of ways. If your spiritual lineage comes from your ancestors, you can start researching your genealogy and learning about what your ancestors did, who they were, what they believed, and how that impacts you today and makes you the person that you are. Now, what if your spiritual lineage is not your ancestors? There are ways to still connect with that lineage. Whatever your spiritual beliefs are, you're not the first person to believe the way you believe, like I said, unless you're completely making up something new. But again, even if you are, somebody probably had the idea before you. So, unless you're completely 100% just fabricating something out of thin air, somebody before you in humanity has had the idea. And there is something from that person's idea that predisposes you to believe as you do, that caused you to come up with this belief. And that is what you would research in such a situation. But more than likely, you're not the first person to believe the way that you do. So look for the people who believe the same way that you do. Even if it's a new idea, even if it's a new ideology, somebody somewhere created it and it came from somewhere. If it's an evolution of a different belief, start studying and connecting it with the previous beliefs and why the belief system evolved the way that it did. There is so much out there in terms of information. It is easy in the 21st century to find and research information. And if you need help, you can always go to your friendly public librarian and ask for research help. And yes, that's a plug from a friendly public librarian, aka me. But there is a wealth of information out there. So just start researching your belief system and where it came from. Now, once you know where your belief system came from, once you've researched, once you've connected with the ancestors, whether they're your biological ancestors or your spiritual ancestors, you can connect with those spirits of the ones that came before you in meditation. And this enhances your practice because it helps to bring the wisdom of the ancients forward into today. You don't have to do anything on your own. When you know what your spiritual lineage is, you can call on your ancestors and their wisdom to help you in your daily life. So you can connect with your ancestors through prayer, through ritual, and on my website, I have a meditation, a guided audio meditation that I have available for purchase to help you connect with your ancestors. I wrote it and designed it to connect with your biological ancestors, but it works just as well to connect with your spiritual ancestors. So if that's something you're interested in, you can find it on my website. Now, I'm not saying that as a plug to go buy my meditation, although you're certainly welcome to do that. It's there as a tool, but you don't have to do that. There are plenty of guided meditations available online, and you don't even have to find a guided one. You can write your own, and there's ways to do that with whether you want to purchase a guided meditation, use one that's freely available on YouTube or whatever, make up your own. There are ways to do it, different methods. And so, like I said, I'm not saying go buy my thing, but it's there if you want it. Um, you don't have to have anything special. You can do your own meditation, and it doesn't even have to be a guided meditation. You can sit in meditation and visualize yourself into connecting with your ancestors without it being through a guided audio meditation. Now, these are just some simple ways to start the process of connecting with your spiritual lineage, your spiritual ancestors. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today in terms of connecting with your ancestors. But there are plenty of other ways to do so. But I don't want to overwhelm you with this huge list of things, and meditation is a good way to start. So start researching where your beliefs come from, who your ancestors are spiritually and or biologically, depending on what your lineage is and where it comes from. And then find ways that work for you to connect with your ancestors, whether that be prayer, ritual, meditation, or anything else. Because like I said, there are tons of methods for connecting with your ancestors. I'm just not going to list every single one. There are ways to find that out. You can always contact me at the email address that's in the show notes so that you can contact me if you want to discuss this further. And if you're interested in getting that guided meditation that I have the link for that in the show notes for you as well.